Welcome to Module 5, where we shall be looking at semantic HTML and accessibility. So the main objective of this module is to write meaningful, accessible HTML to improve user experience and SEO, search engine optimization. So if you're excited about learning this, join me and let us dive right in. So to start us off, we need to understand what are semantic tags, or when we say semantic HTML, what do we mean? And basically, when we talk about semantic HTML, we basically mean tags that describe the purpose of the content. And to start us off, I have defined a very simple HTML page, and I have divs. So one thing that you will note is divs are very generic, and we do have what we refer to as generic tags. They are not specific. A good example is divs. They can be used anywhere. And maybe just to give it a bit of a definition, I have added in the IDs. IDs are important, but they are also limiting in a way. So I can have multiple divs, but I cannot repeat the IDs multiple times. I can only have one ID on the page. So when you use some other technologies, for instance, JavaScript, and I say document.getElement by ID, it will only return to me an instance of one element, or one element will be selected on the page. But if I say get element by class, it will return to me multiple elements that have the same class name. That is one of the key differences. So in order for us to improve the semantic nature of this page, we will replace the div, which are very generic, with more descriptive tags. To start us off, instead of ID top, we can replace this with header, the header tag. And you can immediately start to see, we are getting some bit of structure and definition here. Think about it. Instead of div class menu, I can just replace this with the nav tag. And then we do have our main content body, and at the bottom, the footer. So we do have an element called main. And I think that would be the best element to replace it with a div with a class content. So I can go ahead and say main, because this is the main section of the page. And then we have an article that we have added in. And think about it. We do have an article tag. So instead of this division, we can just say article, which is far much more descriptive compared to just using a generic tag like div. And finally, at the bottom, we can replace this, and you guessed it right, footer. Can use the footer tag. So when we save our page, nothing really changes, but it really improves the structure of the HTML, both when it comes to maintaining the page or the HTML of the page, and also when it comes to SEO, search engine optimization. So that is the basic introduction of semantic HTML. So when it comes to best practices, always try to avoid the overuse of divs as much as possible. You can use, think of it, maybe we have an article, and I'm just throwing this in as an example. And then after the article, we do have maybe a summary of some sort. We can subdivide this further, but instead of having, let's say, div 1, then after div 1, we say div 2, you can already start to see that we are getting very generic. Instead, we can choose to say, to use the section tag. We have the first section, which contains the article, and then the second section, that now provides something totally different. Or after the first section or the article, in the top section, we can have an aside which provide a list of related articles. And you can already see that we are getting a very, very nice semantic structure of the HTML instead of just using generic tags like divs. When we talk about accessibility, we generally refer to ARIA. So you will hear that acronym being thrown around, which basically stands for Accessible Rich Internet Application. So why does this matter? It matters because, number one, it ensures usability of our website or our web application by people with disability. So machines like screen readers can go in and be able to read and interpret the content on our page. Number two, it is a legal requirement in most parts or in many regions of the world. So in order for us to comply with those regulations, it becomes super important for us to add in ARIA or make our web application accessible. So what are some of the things that we can do to improve accessibility on our web page? And you got it right. There's a video where I talked about some certain specific tags. So make sure you go on and see that. I will link the video up in the card above. One of the things that you can immediately do on images is always add the alt text, which basically describes what the image is all about. The other thing that you'll notice is the way I have also named my image. Preferably, the name of the image should describe what the image is about. And if it is for it has multiple words, I will use a hyphen to separate the pages, to separate the words rather. And then in the alt, I will write the description of what the image is about. So that becomes super important for accessibility. Always include the alt text on an image. The other thing that we can use is using what we refer to as role. And you can go in on developer.mozilla to read more about roles. But in a nutshell, let's say I have a div. Then I say save. I can be able to add a role of button, so on and so forth. And you can see, as much as, yes, we know a div is not clickable, the role basically provides a description of what the div is about. But the most important thing is to use this sparingly, because you really want to use the native implementation. Instead of role button, we can just convert this to either a button, which generally just makes this disappear. Index, yes, we can use index to define the order of maybe links or buttons, tabs, so on and so forth. So by using an element like button, we can get rid of, or we can avoid the use of the role, or we can avoid use of the role attribute. Another thing that you can do, and it is something that we have already done, is to use semantic tags. So this becomes super important for accessibility. And by doing that, it makes it easy for screen readers to interpret the content on your page. So what are some of the things that you can do to test out your page, and there are some amazing tools out there. The first one that you can check out is what we refer to as Web Accessibility Tool. And I will leave a link in the description section of this video so that you can take a look at it. So as we have gone through this page, two pitfalls that you need to watch out for. Number one, not including alt text for images. And then number two pitfall that you need to avoid is using divs for everything. If you have gotten value out of this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And if this is the kind of content that you like, I'm sure you will like the next video. See you there.